Hello there, and welcome to a conversation about tomorrow's world, and not only tomorrow's world for the world, but for you, because tomorrow is your tomorrow as well. Just for starters, let me show you this picture. This is a picture of a constellation, or a picture in the sky that we make with our minds when we see the stars. We see shapes which are there. This one is called Orion the Hunter, and it looks like a big person, shoulders here, feet maybe, knees down here. This is the sword belt, this is the sword, and the ancient people imagined this person going out hunting. And there's even, if you look in the sky or on a star map, just about down there, a very bright star called Sirius, or the dog star, because the person's going hunting with their dog. Now, normally, this star, which has the wonderful name of Betelgeuse, in fact all the stars have a name, this one, Betelgeuse, if you looked at it about a year ago, it would have appeared very bright, almost orange. That's because it's a big, maybe a super red giant star. Some stars are much bigger than our sun. But this star is one of those stars that the astronomers know will one day explode. And they call that explosion the supernova. Now, don't worry, on two counts. One is that our sun is a calm star. It will get slightly bigger as it gets older, but will not explode. And the other thing is, this star is 600 light years away. So the light you can see there took 600 years to reach you. But what they also know is that when a star is beginning to get ready to explode, it gets dimmer, doesn't shine so brightly. And that is what Betelgeuse appears to be doing. Now, it could go supernova or explode any time in the next 200 years or more. But just imagine that if that happened in the next few years, you would see it. A very bright point of light in the sky. Even, they say, bright enough to see in the daytime. So, wait for Betelgeuse and see what happens. Now, something else. There is something called the map process. It's all about drawing a map when you're coming up with ideas to do something. You can have a map process, you can use that. Teams can use it, big organizations can use it. It's a way of shaping your thinking. If you've had an idea, how are you going to get to making the idea come true? And the points in the map process are the story, the dream that you have, possibly the nightmare if you need to know what things would be like if they don't work out, who is involved, what are the gifts, the skills and the talents of the people involved, what everybody needs, and what's the plan. So, we've got the thing there. Story, the dream, the nightmare, who, gifts, needs, and the plan. And we always use it in that way. Now, the story, for example, if we think about computers, we think, oh yeah, this is, we're all gamers now, where we do gaming on YouTube, and we're very slick and we're very modern, and it's very, very up to date. Not so. Let me show you this picture, this lady, hopefully not too shiny. Her name is Ada Lovelace. And she was working and living about 200 years ago. And she was born in 1815 and lived until 1852. And she was an English mathematician and a writer, and she was chiefly known for her work on a proposed general purpose mechanical computer called the analytical engine. She was the first person to recognize that the machine she was working on had applications or uses beyond just calculating numbers. And she published the first algorithm. We talk about algorithms with Facebook and all the rest of it and think, oh, it's very new and flash. Ada was doing it in her mind 200 years ago. And as a result, she is widely regarded as the first to recognize the full potential of computers and one of the first computer programmers. Yeah, she was a programmer. Yeah, she did coding. She was cool. And her mother was absolutely keen that she got involved in science and maths because her dad was a wild character and her mother didn't want her to turn out like him, and she certainly didn't. Just thinking about how things move on, here's an example. You're probably not old enough to remember mobile phones like this one. When you look at your phone now and you're going to do a text message, you can probably see all the letters in one go. This one you had to bash the first key to go from A to B to C. It was dreadful. Yet my younger daughter could do it like this. One thumb looking over there. How clever was that? Not me, certainly. Then the phone's got a bit flasher. Look at this one here. Whoa! Wasn't that the state-of-the-art phone? Oh, you could really pose one of these things. Now it's a museum piece. And then we have this thing here, which even this is getting out of date. This is a pen drive. Use it, as you know, in your laptops and PCs, and you store all your information on there. But of course most people now store it somewhere magical called the cloud. Don't need these. And then a bit before that, everybody had CD-ROMs. Whoa, they were all the rage. And before them, I can remember 25 years ago or more, when I first ever got near a computer called an Acorn 3000. You'll only see that in a museum now. This is what you stored your data on. That's called a floppy disk. And the amount of data compared to that pen drive is tiny. It had hundreds of these things. But still, that's progress. That's the way things go. And you may know that last year was the 50th anniversary of Apollo 11, the big rocket that went to the moon and took the first humans to walk about on the moon's surface. They had computers, oh yeah, even 50 years ago, on those spaceships. But listen to this. The amount of computing power used for the Apollo 11 moon landing on the 20th of July 1969 was 0.043 megahertz, whatever that is, or less than that of a pocket calculator or a toaster. That was tiny. Now, we won't go there. So we think about that as the story, the history, a bit of history about computers, a bit of history about space. Now we begin to look at the dream. And a dream is often all to do with exploring, discovering and growing as a person, as a team, or a big organization, or as the world. And one example of this kind of dream, which is happening right now, is the dream of moving to this place. This, as you will all know, is called Mars. This is a world a little bit further away than we are from the sun. A bit smaller, a lot colder. It used to have water, but that's all mostly gone now. But they have found that there are glaciers which hold lots and lots of water. They found massive caves which people could live in. There's even some ice or something like that at the top. So many people, many countries, especially the Americans and their big organization called NASA, are dreaming about going to Mars. And many people involved are dreaming of going to Mars but not coming back. They want to stay there. They want to start a new life there. And so the Americans, the way they're going to do it, they're going to go back to the moon first of all, like they were there 50 years ago. And they're going to build bases all over the moon and do exciting sciencey stuff there, but also get ready to go from there to Mars, because it's easier to do than straight from the Earth. And here's one of the explorers, astronauts. She's already in her spacesuit. She's probably getting ready to go up to the International Space Station and maybe live there for 6 months or a year, always learning about what it's like to be in space, because to go to Mars you're going to be in a spaceship from here to there for 3 months. That's a long time. Now the Americans are designing a new rocket bigger than the Saturn V that took people to the moon, and this is called the Space Launch System, and you can just see it's taking off there. Here's the capsule where the people are, 4 in this one rather than 3 in the old-fashioned one, and that's a big beast. That is at least like a building of maybe 40 or more stories high. And the top part is this, called the Orion capsule, rather like the star picture at the start of this conversation. And again, the people are all in there, and this will go happily to the moon, and maybe it's part of a spaceship. It'll go on to Mars. And around the moon they're going to put this, which is called the Gateway Space Station. Smaller than the international one, but it's a good place to relax, have a bit of space after a long journey in the Orion spaceship here, and they will use this to go on to Mars or go down to the moon. So lots of things happening. Now the next part of the map process, we've had story, dream, now number 3, who. Just let me give you a bit of an idea of people involved. This lady, who sadly died last year at the age of 101, no less, she was a brilliant mathematician. She could do amazing things with her mind and a pencil and numbers. So much so that way back when America was first going into space, there was one chap called John Glenn, and he was going to be the first American to go up into space and go round the Earth 3 times. Wow, big stuff. Katherine Johnson was involved. She was doing the numbers for all this. And they had computers, like we thought about before. And the astronaut, John Glenn, before he got in the rocket, said, "Let's speak to Katherine to check." He said, "The computers have done all the calculations, but I want to hear that Katherine says they're correct, because if they're not, she doesn't believe it, I'm not going." She checked everything, and she said, "Yes, Mr. Glenn, everything is fine." And he said, "Thanks, Miss Johnson," and he got in, and it was fine. Then there's another person here, and this young lady is called Abby, or as she likes to call herself, Astronaut Abby. She has wanted to go into space and work in space since she was that big. She worked very hard at school. She went on and is doing university maybe now. And she started something called the Mars generation. And if she was here now, she would look at you now and say, you young people are the Mars generation. When you get older, you'll be in a position, if you want, to be involved with or even go to Mars. And she has a very special question for you people in the Mars generation at the end. Now, so that's history or story, dream, who. Let's just think about maybe some of the gifts and skills and talents that you need to be involved in this kind of dream. You need data science people, you need IT people, scientists, researchers, engineers, business people, because the whole thing costs money, someone's got to look after that. You need aspiring astronauts like Abby. Then you need people who work in the big, massive warehouses, because they've got to have everything ready to get off the shelves when they need it, when they're building the rocket. And you need security, because yeah, somebody might want to pitch a rocket, so you've got to keep your eyes on that. And accounting, keeping track of all the money, where it's gone. Medical staff, to make sure that everybody is physically, mentally and emotionally very well, because it's quite stressful, big things like this. And transport. You've got a rocket built in California, you've got to get it to Florida, you've got to get there somehow. Do you fly it? Do you take it on the road? Do you go on a ship? All these different gifts, skills and talents. And know this, you listening to this conversation have all got gifts, skills and talents. Some of you might think, oh no, I haven't. I'm no good at maths, I'm no good at science, I'm no good at English. No, 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 no. There is a man called Howard Gardner. Ask your teachers to check him out. And if Howard Gardner was here now, he would say, every one of you young people are already intelligent in at least 9 different areas. Check that out. Find out. Don't let anyone tell you you're not worth it. And then you kind of go on to the sort of the needs, things you need to be able to do, like finding somewhere to live on Mars, learning to grow food, and keeping safe because the sun's radiation can be quite dangerous. But also, check this. Look around you now. Look at a random 5 people, not necessarily your friends, and include yourself, but don't tell anybody. Just look around, think, right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now imagine this, living in a space no bigger than your classroom for 3 months with the same 5 people, and you can't get away from them. The only time you get away is when you go to the bathroom or into your sleeping area. The rest of the time, it's like Big Brother in space. How do you make that work? How do you get along with people? How do you express anger when you need to? How do you not get into stupid rows? What do you do? The only time you get a break is when you land, maybe, on Mars or the Moon, and you've got another 3 months coming back. So that's a big need, knowing how to do that. Of course, you've got to get there, which is why I made this spaceship out of kitchen junk. And you think, well, why do you make a model of the spaceship? Well, what's that all about there? Why does that help? Just to see it helps you begin to believe it. Because the people may live in this piece under here, they could do sciencey, researchy stuff in here, they could drive the spaceship from up the front here. It just gives you an idea of what it might be like. So when you're working with your own ideas, you just want to draw, write notes, just get your ideas from here to here, and it's on the step to success already. So, the last point, we've had story, we've had dream, we've had who, we've had gifts, we've had needs. Now we come to number 6, the last one, And we just quickly run through the plan. Number 6 is the plan. What are we talking about? It's a return or one-way trip to Mars. Where? Well, where's the best place to land, the safest place to land and start living on Mars? When? Well, Mars and the Earth both go around the Sun, and sometimes they're quite close together. The journey takes that 3 months I mentioned, and that's the good time to go. Then how? Well, you go up in the Orion spaceship, you go to the Gateway, and you get in the special Mars spaceship like this one, off you go. Then who is involved again? Well, let's say the dreamers, the doers, the designers, the makers, the supporters, and the explorers. All those people are involved in any plan. And in your own plans, in your own time, you are all those things in one. And the reason why? Well, it's the spirit of discovery and exploration. And who knows, if our world gets more crowded and more warm, we might need somewhere else to go and live, on the moon or Mars. You don't know. And finally, I just want to say the map process, just to remind you, it's your process as much as all this. So ask yourself, what is your story? What is your dream? Who are you? And what are your gifts, skills and talents? Gifts from school, for example, that there's the possibility to have positive relationships with people, your friends and your teachers. School gives you the belief in the possibility of doing meaningful work when you get older, whatever that is. And also school gives you a sense of power, of potential, of being able to do stuff. And what do you need your teachers to do for you now? Ask yourself that, and then ask them. And what is your plan for your life? So the MAP process works for you as much as anything else. Now, I said Astronaut Abby has a question for you. This lady here, remember. When she calls you the Mars generation, she puts this question to you. She says, what is your Mars? In other words, what is your dream? Her dream is Mars. She says, what's your Mars? And you might know it now. You might not, but don't worry, because the question goes in and works away. And eventually, in a day, a week, a month, a year, the answer will come. And you will go, yes, that's my Mars. And just so you know, just so you really know, we started by talking about stars in the sky, Betelgeuse, a big red giant star which may explode soon or in a few years. Well, there was a lady, scientist, who did some work with stars, and she worked out, very clever lady, that all the stuff that you see around you just now in the world, the sun, the planets, everything, actually all comes from an exploding star, like Betelgeuse. And when Betelgeuse goes bang, it will throw stuff into space which will one day calm down, cool down, and become suns and planets. So if anybody says to you, oh, you're a star, you're such a star, they're actually telling the truth, because you are made of star stuff. And I'm absolutely sure that in your own way you will be like a star. Thank you very much for listening. We'll talk again someday.